For hundreds of years, secular thinkers in the West have considered Christianity, Judaism, and Islam to have more or less equally plausible claims to the heritage of the Jewish patriarchs. Our guest today, Danny Burmawi, has a different perspective. A convert from Islam to Christianity, he's here to argue that Islam's appropriation of Jewish history is fundamentally flawed, that Islam's core values are incompatible with democracy, and that Islam's theological claim to the land of Israel requires a new approach at the negotiating table between Israel and the Islamic world. You're listening to Messiah Podcast, where Jesus is Jewish, and that changes everything. Messiah Podcast is a production of First Fruits of Zion. Create a free account at ffoz.org to start exploring the Jewish foundation of your faith and receive a free book from our store.
Let me introduce you to my teacher, the rabbi from the Galilee.
All right. Well, originally from Jordan, here on the podcast today we have Danny Burmawi. How you doing, Danny?
I'm fine, thank you, Jacob.
Well, it's good to have you on. We're here to talk about a lot of stuff that I just read in your book, which is Islam, Israel, and the West: A Former Muslim's Analysis. But before we jump into that, in your book, I read that you grew up Muslim and then you converted to Christianity, and that sounds to me like a fascinating story. If you want to give us the high points, I'm sure our listeners would be interested to know the journey. What's it? What happens? Like, what happened? Why did you? How did you encounter our master, and what led you to become a follower?
All of us, we are on a journey. All human beings, they have this gap in their hearts, and they're searching for God. They're searching for the divine. And when I was a Muslim, I was trying to connect with God. So, of course, in Islam, you have to do it through rituals, prayer, scoring points. So, as a teenager, after the Danish cartoonist controversy, a Danish cartoonist drew the Prophet of Islam, and that sent a wave of protest and rage across the Islamic world. So at that time, I was emotionally charged by different sermons, and I made a decision that I want to dedicate my life to serve Allah and to defend Islam. Long story short, I ended up leaving Islam a year later, after the Lord has sent someone my way who introduced me to the New Testament. Reading the words of Jesus in the New Testament, I immediately felt that is different than Islam. In Islam, you have a fear-based religion, performance-based. It's all about you. You are the center of that religion. Everything you do for your own sake. There's no real relationship. What we call in Christianity justification is non-existent in Islam. And of course, I believe in the sovereignty of God when it comes to salvation. So it was not only my journey or my choice or any of that. I believe it was God's work in my heart, because the transformation was instant. I immediately fell in love with Jesus, so I decided to follow, or he made me decide to follow him. This is my theology. I know that many people will be like, oh, you decided, whatever. I was like, but sure. Yeah, I followed Jesus. I was so enthusiastic about it. I started talking to people everywhere, telling them, of course, that was very unwise, living in an Islamic country, just to go out on the streets and declare that I found Jesus. That was...
it's bold.
But I was, a teenager, and I was not thinking it through. Anyway, within a few months, I had to leave my home country, seeking refuge in a different country in Lebanon, where... They used to be the majority Christians in Lebanon, but today there are some kind of minority, but still they control a region inside Lebanon where you can be free, you can practice whatever faith you want. So I ended up in Lebanon living for the next 14, 15 years before I eventually moved to the United States.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, some of the people I have the most respect for are missionaries to Muslims, because it's for most of us, I think, when we consider that task, it's just, even if we don't know a lot of facts about Islam or the regions where Islam is the predominant religion, it just sounds dangerous. It sounds like the sort of thing that could get you in a lot of trouble. But
Yeah.
but what a mission field, right? I mean, there's so much potential there.
Islam is a unique religion because it really shields its followers from being exposed to any different ideology and different school of thought by mobilizing them or by warning them all the time not to even get close, not to ask questions, not to discuss ideas. So there's some kind of stigma on the missionaries in the Islamic world. They are here to get us. They are here after our religion. They are here because because Allah warned us from the beginning that they will be trying to convert us. So when someone falls in their trap and converts, he is seen by Muslims as a fool or a traitor. Allah is going to punish him eventually for his foolishness. So yeah, this and of course it has in history, historically speaking, the evangelicals or the missionaries who came to the Islamic world, they spent a lot of money building schools, building hospitals, but at the same time looking after individuals. So the stigma was like, they pay money. They pay money to convert you. So they don't see beyond that. They don't see that a missionary might look after an individual sincerely because they care. No, they're trying to convert that person. And of course, as a missionary myself for almost over a decade across the Middle East, I had to face this, and I had to work hard internally on my own heart with my team to make sure that our ministry is not about numbers. It's not about, it's like, if you don't convert, then we failed. No, it's like we are not here to save people. God is the savior. We are here to disciple people. And that is the mission of the church. When the mission of the church becomes salvation instead of discipleship, the church loses its compass. The church becomes, it's like some of these things that Muslims think about the church, sometimes they're true, unfortunately.
Yeah. There's earned criticism a lot of times, and the church has been criticized from the Jewish community for some of the same things, buying converts and things like that. And when you look, it's like, oh, did it happen sometimes? And it's like, well, we have to be very careful about our intentions, our motivations, and yeah, making disciples. That is what we're supposed to do from the Great Commission. That's important to remember.
Yeah, making disciples. The concept of a disciple sometimes is that it must be a person who believed in Jesus. I don't believe that. I believe that disciples, more than that, people who don't consciously know Jesus as their savior, yet they are still long for this, for the characteristics, for the attributes of God. So we are preparing the soil, or we are leading people to see the beauty, the majesty of God. But salvation itself, as it's like taking people away from hell into heaven, that is not the biblical motivation. The biblical motivation is knowing God. It's not to be saved from hell. So in my ministry, I never told anyone, oh, if you don't want to go to hell, believe in God. It's like, I understand the language. So sometimes it's like within a certain context, you could say that, but it shouldn't be like the goal, the mission. It's like to get you away from hell. So I learned a lot. And when I started studying Judaism, it's like for years in the church, they would teach us, Jews rejected Jesus because they want a political figure. That's it. That's everything we know about Jews. Then you go and study Judaism, and it was so astonishing for me. It's like, oh my goodness, it's like Christianity is a continuity of Judaism. It's like Jesus did not bring anything new. He was just globalizing what God has already done. There's grace in Judaism. There's trueness. There's covenant. It's like, so Jesus came and globalized that. And then you understand why the Jews didn't see Jesus as the Messiah. And it's like, oh, I understand now. So the expectations, it's like, okay, Jesus came and he changed the expectations. He redefined a lot of things. So it's absolutely crucial for the church to understand what people believe, what they think. It's to assume, for example, in the Islamic world, to assume that, Muslims, they're just lost souls and let's go save them. It's like, you have no idea about how many people in Islam, they're faithful, they're sincere. Of course, we see them as lost souls, but from their perspective, you're lost.
Yeah.
So it's important for missionaries to put themselves in the shoes of other people and to see things from that perspective.
Yeah. That is important. Here at First Fruits of Zion, we do believe that Jesus will come back and rule the world. So when he comes back, he will fulfill Jewish messianic expectations, including being that political leader of the government will be upon his shoulders. I just wanted to clarify that for our listeners who want to know what we think. But I want to move on because I want to hear more about Islam because, I was reading, Lessing's play Nathan the Wise, where he quotes the Decameron, which was written like in the 1200s, 1300s. And even back that far, you have this idea that like Islam, Christianity, Judaism, it's like they're all Abrahamic religions. And essentially it's like, well, what's really the difference? Like they all have like a slightly different take. But when you really get into it and explain what makes Islam different, and one of the things that you talk about in your book is that, you find some flexibility when in Judaism and Christianity, you find flexibility. Things can change over time. Things can improve. People can look into the Bible and find something you didn't see before. And it's like, well, maybe we shouldn't have slaves or whatever, something like that. The world could get better. But in Islam, you talk about how there's a rigidity there that prevents that kind of like a moral development or prevents any real change from happening. Can you explain why that's the case?
Many people assume that we have Jesus in Christianity, Jews have Moses, and Muslims have Muhammad. We have the New Testament, Jews have the Tanakh, and Muslims have Quran. So it's like, actually, it's not the case. In Islam, it's absolutely different than what we believe. As Jews and as Christians, we believe that the Word of God or the Bible is the product of cooperation. It was a divine inspiration, but it was a human effort. So God is respecting the agency of man. I know that many people would argue with me. It's like, but you believe in the sovereignty of God when it comes to salvation. That's a different matter. But what I'm talking about, the Word of God, the revelation, it is the product of cooperation. we are working with God, or the apostles and the prophets, they were working with God. So it's human words. It's their stories, their struggles. So God is revealing who He is throughout the redemptive history, through different people, 39, 40 people writing the Word of God, and it's like you can use your conscience, rationality, reasoning. You can wrestle with the text. We have Jacob in Genesis wrestling with the divine, for example, and he emerged as Israel after that wrestling. So that transformation of identity, it happens as you wrestle, as you struggle, as you try to understand. And even though we have high focus on faith, but that doesn't mean at all we don't ask questions. God is not offended by questions. We read in the books of Psalms, for example, the psalmists are all the time asking tough questions to God. Job, of course, from a spiritual perspective, after 38 chapters, Job is asking all kinds of questions. God revealed himself, and suddenly Job didn't need answers. He's taken out by the beauty and the majesty of God. So he said, I don't need answers anymore. It's like, I now I see you. So, of course, from a spiritual perspective, yeah, it happens that way. Faith comes when the revelation is greater than your questions. You feel like your questions are irrelevant in front of that greatness. But yet, nevertheless, we ask questions. In Islam, the Quran is not that. The nature of the Quran is different. In Islam, the Quran is dictational inspiration. So it's not the product of a human working with God. It was revealed to Muhammad, letter by letter. So Muhammad has absolutely nothing to do with it. Humans have absolutely nothing to do with it. It was God's word, and that's it. So actually, if you want to understand what the Quran in Islam is, just think of what Jesus to Christians is. Jesus is the word of God. He took a human body. In Islam, of course, there are many nuances there, but it's very close, the idea. The Quran is the word of God, but it took a body that is a book. So when you want to compare Islam to Christianity, always compare the Quran to Jesus. Don't compare the Quran to the Bible. That's a mistake, and people do it all the time. So just imagine the Quran converts to a human being. That's how that's what Christianity is. Anyway, so when you have that nature of the Quran in Islam, and on top of it, you have Muhammad lived for 23 years, and he embodied all the teachings that he has given. It's like, so when people say, these terrorist organizations, they don't represent Islam, they follow a different fringe interpretation, you might think, in Islam it's like Judaism, for example. They have like thousands of different interpretation and rabbinical writings or imams' writings. And no, there's no interpretations in Islam. There's only one ultimate interpretation, and that interpretation is Muhammad himself. The books that called interpretation of the Quran, they are actually doing absolutely nothing beside telling stories of Muhammad. What Muhammad did, why did this verse was revealed, what happened here. So the interpretation is all about Muhammad. So as long as we have Muhammad as the image and as the incarnation of the Quran, so there's no way you can change anything, because the story is there. It's like, what are you going to? It's like in Islam, the fatwa, the fatwa is like some kind of interpretation for a certain event, but it's never about the main things. It's about minor details. It's like when you go to the bathroom, you use your left leg. What do you say? This interpreter would say, "Oh, use this sentence." This, it's like, but when it comes to the real big things, the paramount principles, it's already there's no discussion there. And you don't have the conscience in Islam is not considered to be supplementary to the revelation. It is antithetical to the revelation, because if you use it, it might take you somewhere that away from Allah. So in that sense, conscience is the enemy of Allah. And that's why in the Quran, Allah told Muslims, don't ask questions that you might, that their answers might disturb you. So it's a commandment in the Quran not to ask questions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, well, in the spirit of going ahead and asking questions anyway, I've heard this before, and I read it in your book also, that at the very beginning, Muslims used to pray toward Jerusalem. And people think now, what are the holiest places in Islam? I think, based on my limited knowledge, well, it's like Mecca and Medina, and they talk about Jerusalem as being like the third holiest place. But in the beginning, they were praying toward Jerusalem. Why did they do that, and why did it change?
So Muhammad emerged in an environment where the Arab tribes worshipped hundreds and hundreds of deities. And they were scattered. They were not united. They were fighting amongst each other. And there were the Jews and the Christians. And the difference between the deities of the pagans, the Arab pagans, and Jews and Christians is how deep the story goes. It's like the Jews, they have a construct. They have, they have structure. They have full history, full knowledge of who that God is, what happened here. It's like, it's amazing. Christians built on that, of course. But the pagans, it's like, there was absolutely nothing, no roots, no depth to any of the deities. So in order to unite the Arab tribes, Muhammad had to bring two things together. He had to keep or preserve the customs and the traditions of the Arabs, because they are the majority. But at the same time, he needed that depth, that foundations. So he connected the biblical God with a distant, transcendent deity that Arabs used to know, but there was actually no direct relationship or connection to that deity. It's like it was known, and I'm talking about Allah. Allah was known, but it was like very distant. He's like great, but we don't know anything about him. So Muhammad gave Allah an identity, roots, a story, by claiming that Allah is the God of the Jews and of the Christians. So Muhammad decided at the beginning of his ministry that he was going to mimic the Jews and Christians, because the Jews were praying toward Jerusalem, and Christians, they were praying toward the east historically, but they had some kind of Qibla. Qibla is like the spot that you direct yourself toward when you pray. But of course, he went with the Jews to Jerusalem, and he was trying to appease them in order to, if the Jews accepted him, that would be magnificent, because the Jews, they had authority over history, over the identity of God. It's like their history. If you read, for example, Josephus, and you see that the Jews are in every culture, in every society. People are struggling to understand who are these people, And of course, from the Bible, they're the people of God, and they're the carrier of His covenant. So we don't know all the details, of course. But what we know is that Muhammad tried to appease them. He tries to come up with attractive things like, why don't you just believe in me? That would give me legitimacy.
Yeah.
But of course, when the Jews said, no, we're not going to do that, this has absolutely nothing to do with our history, with our God, with our prophets, with nothing. Allah changed his mind. He's like, okay, let's pray to Mecca.
Yeah.
So now it's like, so what happened here? Muhammad realized, okay, I have no chance with the people of the book. So let's just focus on the tribes, the Arab tribes, and my tribe in particular, to win their allegiance, and that would be enough. And of course, he turned against the Jews and the Christians, and he massacred them later when he migrated to Medina. So that is absolutely everything about Jerusalem and Islam.
Yeah.
What happened later is that we have a story. Muhammad had a dream about a mosque called the distant mosque. So Al-Aqsa in Arabic is like the remote mosque or the distant mosque. And no one thought it was in Jerusalem, of course. But later, after decades, we have a caliph or two caliphs who are fighting. They have war. One of them is controlling Mecca. One of them is residing in Damascus. And the caliph in Damascus is concerned that people who will go to Mecca for pilgrimage, they will be, impacted by that caliph, and they will turn against him. So he decided to manufacture a narrative that you see this temple of the Jews where the temple used to be. Oh, this is the Al-Aqsa, the distant mosque that Muhammad talked about in his dream. And he built a mosque there, and suddenly that spot became holy spot in Islam. Absolutely have nothing to do with Islam. And here's the evidence. The second caliph after Muhammad, he's the companion of Muhammad, when he invaded Jerusalem, he didn't pray there. He didn't mention the mosque of Al-Aqsa Mosque. He didn't even visit the Temple Mount. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. Why? This is the third holiest place in Islam. And he invaded Jerusalem, but instead of going to the Temple Mount, he prayed outside the church in Bethlehem. It's just 10 miles away from Temple Mount. Why didn't he just make the trip? But of course, because he had no idea that there was a Temple Mount or was a mosque or any of that. It was just a made-up story. Unfortunately, it is the reason why Muslims are still attacking Jews until today. Of course, one of the reasons, but it's like it's all a made-up story.
Yeah, and you go into that a lot in your book. I encourage people to check that out. About how much stuff in Islam is just kind of like, well, we made it up, just kind of, and you can see where they got real important facts wrong, off by 1,000 years on the timeline, things like that. Don't have time to get into all that, but it's you wrote it all down. I thought it was really interesting and informative. Hey, if you're enjoying this conversation, take a moment to like, comment, subscribe, or share with a friend. It really helps us reach more people with the message of the Jewish Jesus and his coming kingdom. You can find more Messianic Jewish teaching and resources from First Fruits of Zion when you visit ffoz.org and create a free account. Thanks. I want to get into now, so maybe a really pertinent issue. And it has been for decades, but it seems to be getting more pertinent, which is, and how do I want to say this? It's like in the West, or at least in America, we think of religion as like a box you check on a form. It's like a choice that you make. It's whatever you feel like you are. And everyone can just pick. Everyone can pick their religion. And that religious thing is something that's basically private. I mean, you go to church, whatever, but it's like your thing. And It's maybe it informs your values and stuff like that, but it's a choice every person has to make. Whereas when you look at Islam, like the first thing they did was they got an army together and they just started conquering large swaths of territory. I watched a video on this on YouTube, of someone just talking for 3 hours about early Muslim conquest, the first few decades. And it was, submit or die, or like submit and convert or pay the tax or die. And this isn't the sort of behavior that I grew up associating with the religious belief. So it's like another category, and it's something a lot of people may not know or may not think about. Is this what's going on here? Like when we see Muslims who are just like, oh, they're just going to mosque instead of go to church. They go on a different day. They have different practices. But
Yeah.
the difference really goes a lot deeper. Is that correct?
Well, I believe Muslims are doing it right, not the West. I'll tell you what I mean by that. We are tribal beings. We are relational beings. We are not designed or created to live alone. And the consequences of individualism, it's like you can see it around you today. Mental illness, people are longing for relationships, their loneliness. It's like just look around you and you will see that what individualism created. And Christianity is not actually individualistic. We are called the church. It's like Muslims, they preserved the tribal structure of the past, which comes with a baggage of crazy things. But Christianity has a healthier model, but we are not doing it anymore. And I believe the reason why we lost that is because theologically we have been severed from our Jewish roots. Judaism is a covenant religion, right? It's about the community. It's like you're not alone. It's like you live in a house, and that household is what God looks at, not only the individual, the household. Just go inside the house, put the blood on the doorsteps, and that's it, and on the doorpost, and that's it. You're safe. What I mean by that is that we come as a community. We are represented by the second Adam. In the West, religion was turned into, this is a private thing. You don't talk about it in public. You're embarrassed to it's like, it's not nice or kind to ask people what their religions are. It's like, I'm sorry, it's stupid. It's like religion is, it's the set of values that define you. It doesn't work. It's like, I don't have to know who you are. It's like, no, I need to know who you are. It's like, what do you believe about yourself, about me, about the word? So anyway, in Islam, that the unhealthy tribalism was globalized. And it was preserved theologically. In Christianity, in Islam and Judaism, we have it, but because of the time we live in and because of the different school of thoughts that have invaded the West, the fall of meaning, that dismantling of meaning after postmodernism, relativism, there's no truth, no absolutes. Everything is relative, It's like you construct your own truth. Your God is just a manifestation of your emotions and ideas. It has no place in reality. And we believe that. But actually, biblically, truth doesn't come from inside of us. Truth is revealed to us. He was with God, the Word was with God, and the Word came to us. So it doesn't come, we don't generate it. We are unable to generate truth.
Yeah.
It must be revealed to us. So when the society lost that, no believing in transcendence anymore, you are transcendent. You are the center of the world. You are the God of the universe. Of course, now we have Islam. with its unhealthy model of something beautiful, that is community, coming to a void, to a vacuum, to people who are craving relationships, craving community, craving to be known, to be touched, to be understood. So Islam is easily just taking over, easily. It's like people are shocked, like, how is it possible that Islam, with all its violence, the terrorism, that it's like, how is it possible that Islam is seizing ground? Oh, actually, it's pretty easy, because Islam is giving people something they crave, even if it's the unhealthy model, the imperfect model. But if you look at the Muslim community, they meet at the mosque 5 times a day. Of course, people have to work. We don't have time to go 5 times a day to the mosque. Of course, I totally understand that. But the idea, you get the idea. It's like the mosque is not a place you go to only on Sunday. You attend the service. 5 minutes after the service, you say hi to a couple people on your way out. No, it's a community. They know you, you know them. The walls are down. This sense of privacy, and it's like in America, we foreigners who come to America, we are just amazed how people are like the boundaries around their private life. Oh my goodness. It's like, I know that you don't like it. I know that you want your privacy, but at the same time, you hate it. But you don't know. You think it's like, my privacy. No, you don't. We are not designed to be isolated.
Yeah.
We're designed to, so of course, if you go to the Mediterranean, it's like Spain, Greece, North Africa, the Middle East. When Americans go there, they're like, they love it. They want just to move, even though it's like, it's not as nice as America on many different levels, but still, they love it. Why? Because of this thing. And we foreigners who come to America, we hate it, even though we love America. And it's like, we are not going to leave. We love America. But at the same time, we are suffering because we hate it. You go to our countries, you love it. So what's going on here? And of course, we keep coming to America because at the end of the day, people are, they have priorities. It's like, financially, I want to be secure financially. That trumps the community thing. So, and people lose their lives as they are seeking more money instead of seeking relationships. It's a difference, but at the same, between Islam and Christianity, but at the same time, it's actually should teach us something about how we should be as a church. It's not just a place. It's not an institution. It's not an organization. The church is not only about the budget and the activities and to attract more people to come to our church service because it's more colorful and more beautiful. It's more than that.
Yeah. No, you make a good point. I've been thinking about this a lot. The sort of atomization of American society, and every person sort of in it for themselves, and people who are a part of something, and people who have community and who have someone's got your back. I mean, it is attractive. Now the goal is not in Islam, if I understand your book correctly, the goal is not to have this sort of just happy community that is content to have its own thing going on.
No, absolutely not.
The community has this goal of like enwrapping everything else within it, right? Of world domination is the way that it sounds like the classic cartoon bad guy goal of taking over everything. Is that true? Because like I used to live on the periphery of a Muslim neighborhood, mostly Yemeni, and they seemed, in one respect, they seemed weird because they had dressed different. All the little women all wore like the veil, and they would go. The men would wear like these white clothes to the mosque on Friday. You could see them, but in another respect, it's just like, well, the guys were driving around these cars playing loud music, and it was like, yeah, it's just, it sort of looked like any other minority community or immigrant community, a little different, but seemed pretty harmless. But the way you spell it out in your book, it seems like you think that this is like, there's just one step on the road to like taking over the country. Can you connect the dots for people who have met Muslims who sort of seem like just regular people, and
Yeah.
and how what's going on there that's not being talked about?
So first of all, the majority of Muslims, they don't wake up in the morning plotting against the West or against America. Or so.
That's good.
It's like the absolute majority of Muslims, they're here. No, they're just here for the same reasons every other immigrant is. They just want better lives. So you shouldn't be looking at Muslims as their like existential threat. You should be looking at Islam as existential threat, because Islam conditioned Muslims to obey by fear. So they will always side with the radicals or people who are thinking of taking over the country. So the majority, they don't think about it. They don't want it, but they will always end up supporting and siding with who wants to conquer, because it's loyalty. It's all about loyalty and pledging allegiance to Allah. If you are loyal to Allah, you will always side with those who serve Allah. And the people who are involved in politics, Muslims who are involved in politics, their motivation is theological. And Muslims will always vote for them. So the more Muslims you have in your country, the more elected officials who are Muslims involved in politics will be there. And they are not going to be there only to advance the tenets of liberal democracy. Absolutely not. They will be trying to push for ideologically aligned ideas. They will try to pass blasphemy laws. They will try to impose certain aspects of Islamic laws into the society. So that is that. So what I discuss all the time is this. I don't care about Muslims. I care about Islam itself as a religion. If you if more Muslims have the numbers, then they will end up shaping how the society looks like, because it's natural. It's not because they are meeting somewhere in a room, even though they meet in the mosque, and the mosque, they speak about this. They say, yeah, we want to take over the West. We want to take over the world. Islam is going to rule the world. Of course, they say that publicly. They are not ashamed of it. They don't care. It's like you can just go on YouTube, on TikTok, and you will find 10,000 videos of imams and sheikhs repeating these words. I'm not making this up. It's not fear-mongering. But at the same time, this shouldn't be like make you hateful toward Muslims. Absolutely not. It's like they are vessels of this cancerous idea, but they are still separated from the idea itself. But unfortunately, they are vessels of it. They're carrying it, unintentionally, by nature. So what are you going to do? You're going to deal with the ideology itself. It's like you have to pay attention to the immigration policies. It's like, listen, if people who worships rats and who sacrifice human beings to their god become the majority in any society, that's going to change the society, right? So it doesn't matter. It doesn't if Jehovah's Witnesses become the majority in America. America is going to be shaped after what they believe. So it's just basic math. I'm not trying to say, oh, this is unique to Islam. But the problem is, when it comes to Islam, Islam is antithetical to the Western values. That's it. if we are dealing with a religion that is neutral, that is open to accept the foundational values that built the West, then there's no problem.
Yeah.
Because this is what John Rawls, the political theorist, he called it the overlapping consensus. I talked about this in my book. It's like, if we don't have to believe in the same religion, but we just need to agree on common things. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of thought, the intrinsic value of a human being, that which shapes the justice system. But when you have a religion like Islam, no freedom for religion is allowed, no freedom of speech, no freedom of thought. Your value is determined by your religious affiliation. Then how are you going to live with Islam, for God's sake? What are you going to do? It's like, so it's not Islamophobia. It's just describing what's going on. Do Muslims believe in freedom of religion? They would say, yeah, we do, but you have to pay jizya tax.
Yeah. It's an idea that doesn't come naturally to Christians, because in the Bible, the Christians have no mandate to take geographical territory, right? There's nothing in the Bible that says you have to rule. Like we believe Jesus will come and he will rule. In the meantime, we make disciples. So we're dealing with human beings, right? So we want to propagate our message one person at a time. And in Islam, there seems to be this, and this, correct me if I'm wrong, but this seems to underlie a lot of what's going on with Israel-Palestine. Islam has this, they want like a political sovereignty over territory. And because like the Caliphate or the Ottoman Empire used to have Palestine or Israel, that it's like some kind of insult, some kind of problem, some kind of religious and political problem, that they don't have political sovereignty over that area now. Is that really the issue that lies behind everything we've been seeing in the Middle East since 1948?
Yeah, in Islam, not only people have religions, the land also has a religion. So land ruled by Islam is a Muslim land, as if that land practices the religion itself. The constitutions, the countries have religions. If you go to the Islamic countries, they have in their constitution, Islam is the religion of the state. What does that mean? State is not a human being. It's like a living entity, but still, the identity of the state is Islamic. The identity of the land is Islamic. So, according to Islam, the world is divided into two parts: the House of Islam and the House of War. The House of Islam is the land that is already ruled by Muslims, the land converted to Islam. Now, when the land converts to Islam, the land cannot revert back. It cannot go back to anything else. The land of Israel converted to Islam when Muslims entered it. Then the Jews came and say, oh, this is our land. It's like, no, sir. The land is Muslim. You don't have right in it. And we're going to fight you forever until we kick you out of it. So it's not really about the land per se. It's about the concept of sovereignty, if that makes sense. It's like, I'll give you an example to make it easier.
Yeah.
In Egypt, many Coptic Christian girls are kidnapped. Frequently. It happens all the time. And they kidnap the girls and they convert them to Islam. Now, in Islam, once you become a Muslim, you cannot leave the faith. It's punishable by death. So now, after she converts, her family finds her, and now they have a conversation. It's like, what is it going to be? It's like, now you're a Muslim, and we're Christians. And you cannot marry as a Muslim. You cannot marry non-Muslim. So you see where this is going? It's
Mm.
catastrophic to
Yeah, it's
thousands of
horrifying.
families, horrifying. The thousands of families in Egypt have experienced that and still do today. So it's the same concept when it comes to the land. The land was hijacked by Islam and it was converted by force. And now we have that family that land belongs to having conversation with their land. It's like, you're our land. But the land is saying, I'm sorry, I converted to Islam by force. If I leave, it's punishable by death.
Wow. So you talked about this being like not a secret. People talk about it. There's imams out there explaining it clearly on every week, and it's on the internet. So how explain how Muslims have successfully portrayed themselves, even as the goal is in Islam is just to take over everything. How is it that they've successfully been able to portray themselves as like the victims? Like not even just like in Palestine, but even like, oh, like in America, if you say, well, we're not really comfortable with the idea of being ruled by Sharia law, it's like, oh, you're Islamophobic, right? So it's like
Yeah.
across the board, you know, if you raise any concerns about this stuff, but then especially with the Palestinian cause, it's like, oh, Islam is always the victim. How is that? How did that happen? Do people just don't know what Islam is about? They haven't engaged with what its goals are, or is it just ignorance, or what's going on?
So basically, you have 9/11 happened 25 years ago. And
Yeah.
those who were responsible about 9/11, they told the world, they told the Americans, we are doing it. We are doing this because Allah told us so, because our religion teaches us to do so. And Zahran Mamdani's aunt, she felt afraid or scared to wear hijab on the subway in New York. So
Mm.
they blame you for just believing or believing your eyes. It's like, if you believe your eyes, you are to be blamed. It's like, what do you want me to do? It's like, they're telling us it's Islam. Muslims practices across the world. Tens of thousands of terrorist activities are connected to Islam. So what do you want me to do? I'm afraid that is true. No, you're Islamophobe if you believe it. So this is one part of it. It's like, but in general, because Islam inevitably destroyed nations. It's like, if a nation adhere to Islam, Islam is going to destroy that country, to destroy that
Mm.
society, because Islam completely halt. It's like prohibit women from working, for example. Even today, women in the Islamic countries, they are like still. It's like in Jordan, if I remember correctly, 12% of women only work. So half of the society are already not working. You've completely shattered the economy.
Mm.
Of course, we could argue about stay-at-home mom and the role of a woman, all of that, but still, women are participating in the economy and building the economy. So, because of that inevitability, because Islam will always lead to stagnation, Muslims have to always find other reasons to allocate or to assign to the problems. They cannot say it's Islam. So
Yeah.
it's imperialism, it's colonialism, it's Jews hate us. They want to destroy Islam. They're jealous of us. They want to steal our resources. Then all the reasons in the world, but not we are the problem. It's always external. It's always, the problem is someone else. This is like typical narcissistic personality disorder. This is like, it's like you deal with people like this all the time in your daily life. You know people. I am sure that every one of us know people who never admit that they make mistakes. They are always right, and everybody is trying to plot against them and to. It's like they're paranoid. Anyway, so unfortunately, this is the product of Islam. It's always paranoia because paranoia is embedded in the Quran. And you have the West with its intersectionality and cultural relativism. It's like, oh yeah, if you are weak, and of course Marxism and seeing the world through the lens of oppressed versus oppressor, and if you're weak, doesn't matter what are the facts, the context. No, it's like the fact that you are weak makes you righteous, and you are
Yeah.
right, and you are the victim, and you are oppressed. It doesn't matter if you are weak because of what you believe, because of a reason that is in your mind. No, no, no.
Yeah.
You are oppressed, and we must fight who is oppressing you, and that is Israel. And you are, if you are strong, if you're successful, if you are a community of people who have been persecuted for 2,000 years and yet always emerged more successful, they never settled for victimhood narratives. They just keep building and growing and self-correcting. You are the oppressor. You don't have the right to be successful.
Yeah.
And that's how we ended up with this crazy show in the West today, where if you are transsexual and you want to fight the system that you think is oppressing you, you have to side with Hamas.
Yeah.
So that's just unfortunately both two ideologies meeting together. They are against each other on every different level, except when it comes to the Western civilization and to freedom, to liberty, to capitalism, to free market. It's like they hate these ideas.
Yeah, you mentioned in your book something I thought was really important, which was that the Marxists and the Muslims, like I guess I'll use that term without qualification, although the people will call them jihadis or something like that. But in Iran, the Iranian Revolution had a lot of different factions that all wanted revolution. They all wanted to get rid of the Shah. You had Marxists, you had Muslims, and then when the revolution happened, the Muslims turned their guns on the Marxists because there's no compatibility there.
Muslims have the numbers, and they don't need the left or the radical left anymore. They will massacre them, whether politically or if there's violence, physically. So it's going to happen. You know.
Well, I think we have time for one more question, and I wanted to ask. I'm not asking. This might be a tall order, but I'm sure you have thoughts on this. You know, I know about the Abraham Accords. You know, there seems to be some Islamic countries that are making nice with Israel, and on a more basic level, it seems like these countries are not going away. You know, there's a billion Muslims, I think, something like that, and there's many Islamic countries. What lies ahead? What does the future look like? Is some kind of peace possible? Are we looking at some kind of inevitable Armageddon? What can people look forward to, or what should people be agitating for? What can a normal person do armed with the knowledge that they've gotten from you today?
Unfortunately, the traditional solutions are not going to work. The Western solutions, the typicals, like we have this dialectical approach. We have theses, antitheses, then you have synthesis. Let's try to, you have a claim, I have a claim, then we reach an agreement, some kind of agreement. That's not going to work when it comes to the Arab-Israeli conflict, because we're not dealing with the same pattern. It's an absolute claim that is irreconcilable with any. So there's no way to approach it, no way to tackle it. It's an absolute claim. This land belongs to Islam by a divine decree. And you have the Jewish people, it's their land. So what are you going to do? Are you going to just kick them out? So we also have an absolute claim there. So the Western diplomats and politicians, they have been approaching this for a very long time the wrong way. It's like, yeah, let's sit at the table and talk. And they absolutely, it's like they exclude theology. They just ask theology to leave the room. Hey, Mr. Theology, stay out. This is a political discussion. It's not going to work. It will never work without theology unless the Islamic word comes to some kind of agreement within its own boundaries, within its own understanding that Israel has the right to exist. There will never be peace. And I'm not only saying a recognition that is political. It has to be theological. It has to be that. It's like, how is it possible that Egypt made peace with Israel, and at the same time the biggest Islamic university in the world, Al-Azhar in Egypt, teaches that Israel doesn't have the right to exist on an Islamic land? So what are you going to do with that? So it's really that's why I started this think tank. It's called Ideological Defense Institute, and hopefully we'll be launching in January. And we will try to help the lawmakers or to influence foreign policy in a way that based in theological understanding of the conflict.
Great. Well, the book, again, is called Islam, Israel, and the West. I don't have a physical copy to hold up, but you can find it wherever fine books are sold. So you've got it. Yeah, hold it up there in front of the camera. And this has been Danny Burmawi. Thanks so much for joining us and for giving us your perspective.
Thank you, Jacob. Thank you for having
me.
This was a great conversation. I'm so grateful for it.
Me too. Thanks. Well, thanks for joining us today on First Fruits of Zion's Messiah podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review along with a 5-star rating. If you want to learn more about the Jewish Jesus, create a free account at ffoz.org and start studying the scriptures from a Messianic Jewish perspective. We'll even give you a free book. Messiah Podcast is made possible by the generosity of our First Fruits of Zion friends. FFOZ friends are people like you who partner in our mission to reconcile disciples of Yeshua with God's prophetic promises to Israel. Tune in next time for more great conversations. Until then, I'm Jacob Franzak. Shalom.
Put your hand in mine together. We will walk in harmony. Let me introduce you to my teacher, the rabbi from the Galilee. Let his word